what Jim had laid out for you plant-wise going into this thing did that for you, because as we'll get into a little later in this, something that we kind of want to really leave you with, talking about dollars and cents and the ramifications on the rate. So with that,
From an engineering perspective, it's easy to plan as a new plant. You know, if we can start with the cornfield and put a new plant in it, it's easier for us to do it than it is to try to adapt. So that's kind of why we like doing these though, because it's a little more difficult, but it does give you a better, we optimize your dollars spent. This, if you recall some time ago, we talked about a new plant site or utilizing this one. There was some conversation about the railroad taking over this site, I think, and we talked about, and then this was in the scope of a bigger picture, which is annexation. You know, we talked about whether or not to plan for what might happen, begin the process of annexing both on the east and the west side to get out to the interstate, because to be honest with you, that's where your livelihood will be. That's you either grow or die in this economy. So if we get there, and we get there before Alliance gets there, because they've already got the school, and we have to work out an arrangement with them to take that over when we get out to that point. To me, it's important for you to begin the process of expanding. Now, having said that, we left the plant at this site. This is upwind of town. It's very close to the community. And when we were talking about it several months ago, we talked about moving it further west, which would be closer to the school and to the interchange. But we dismissed that idea because of the cost. It's much easier to get and less expensive, not easier, less expensive to get the gallons of treatment here than it is to build a new plant out in the cornfield, and you can maintain it. I also don't think it's right or advisable to spend money today for what might happen tomorrow. And we talked about availability fees and connection fees with your ordinances, so that when people do tie on, when there is growth out there, that those are the folks that are paying for your plant expansions, which will come if you do build and do grow. Aunt Mary down here in the corner shouldn't have to pay more to subsidize what happens out on the west side. So we have to make sure the ordinances are correct, so that it's fair. You know, that's the key word, it's fair. So that nobody in town is subsidizing somebody else's growth potential. You know, so having said that, what we had proposed and what we had included was, these are your aeration tanks now, converting these to fine bubble diffusers so we get better oxygen transfer, replace your blowers that are you hear them when you go down, that's the first thing you hear. Eliminate the rectangular clarifiers. You're having some drive trouble. I think the last time I was down in the plant, did you work through that issue?
Oh, with the cane,
Yeah, it's pretty difficult to find parts anymore for this anyway. You still get the plastic chains and whatnot. Build two 30-foot diameter clarifiers back here. Don't hold me to the scale, okay? You have your existing UV in this pond. Doug, we love this pond. Our goal is to make it so you don't have to have it. You know, our goal is to be able to run up to 2 million gallons through here because of the strength decreasing during your high flow conditions, so we can still take care of the biology. These will capture the solids that will wash out under high flow conditions, so we don't have to use this. You and I have had this discussion.
I really want to believe you, Jim.
I know, we've had this discussion. We'll show you some places where this has happened and worked out this way. We don't have to demo it anyway to be able to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish at this point. But if the goal is to get this thing so you don't have to offload to it and use it as an EP base, you're going to be better off from a treatment perspective. Your digester's good. You added that a few years ago, and then we go back to you have to upsize the UV and we're out. So it's pretty simple. So it's a lot less expensive than building tanks. The only tanks we're building are these two, and we got some flow control structures that have to go along with it. But other than that, that's what we're doing.
So you're saying keeping part of the plant and the operation?
Yes. The only thing that's not being used are these two tanks. At this point, and we're replacing these with these two. The clarifiers are the heart of your treatment plant. Your clarifiers are, I don't want to Stu said I wouldn't bring engineering jargon in here. They're size based on surface loadings and weir loadings. These are not, there's not a lot of surface area here, so it doesn't like to settle as well as if you have a large circular clarifiers out here to handle that. And that was why we were significantly less expensive in our alternative than I think you had some other people look at this thing. More expensive to build a new plant. This will operate. You'll have basically a new plant within the skin here that's here. You'll have new blowers, new influent pumps, new clarifiers. Your digesters off. You get some blowers in there too that we'll deal with at the same time. New UV, and so you basically have a new plant without building a lot of tankage. And that's what we've been doing in a lot of other communities, trying to keep the cost down. Yes, sir.
One question I have is the area where the clarifiers are at now, understanding you're going to engineer those out into the other
Here.
two, can that space be utilized for emergency use? I mean, is it just going to be dead space there, or is that part of the...
We've done this before. The problem is that the volume in these two tanks isn't enough to be significant. We're looking at less than 2 hours of pump run time at 100% pump capacity. So there isn't a lot of usable space. Or what we have done, we've been able to offload if you have a contamination. We've had fuel oil spills in Newcastle, for example. So we take when we know it happens, we come down there, we change a valve and dump it into here, so we don't kill the biology that's going on here. And that we can certainly do. I'm not advocating demolishing these.
Right. Well, I picked up on the fact that you weren't, so I
Yeah.
was kind of curious if you had a plan for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this was not new technology, so.
No, I'm an old guy. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've seen the new technology. We've gone in and repaired a lot of new technology. This has been tried and true and works. So, there are things called SBR, sequential batch reactors. Back in the late 80s and early 90s, there were a lot of those things constructed. They're operationally difficult to do, although the philosophy is the same as an activated sludge extended aeration plant, but they work on microprocessors. So anytime you have electrical failures, then you have to go to a fail-safe, and it becomes an operational problem. IDEMs required 3 cells. They used to allow 2, 3 because it gave you a little more time to repair them when they go down. So, oxidation ditches, you've heard of them. We've done several oxidation ditches, and those are particularly well suited for high flow, low strength waste. Because again, the surface area is increased significantly over this.
You would take another main line down to the plant from West Street.
Right behind,
Yeah.
right behind it, Jim.
Right behind it, Jim. Right
Backside.
behind it, Jim.
Yeah, turn it up.
No, there we go. Yeah, in the scope of that PER, we were going to run a new 15-inch line, bring it back down this way and into the plant rather than bring it along the railroad. There are a couple of reasons for that. Primarily because of ease of construction. Secondly, because it opens other areas up for you for development. You run a pipe along a railroad, you're locked on one side anyway. This spur was built after the initial conversations with this 15-inch anyway. But we need to be coming down this way off the intersection up here, back down and into the plant road and run around.
We did put a casing in there when that spur was built just for that.
Did you?
Yeah.
I put it right in here?
Run back
Don't know
down.
where it is.
It did run under the rail spur alongside,
Oh, did you run alongside?
well, no, along the track would be more east and west.
Yeah,
Yeah.
across the top.
This way?
Yeah, no,
Why not, Doug?
no problem.
You brought your own?
They would actually run, like the rail runs underneath here.
Mm-hmm.
It's that spur. It actually comes off of West Street